On today's podcast, we have Sarah Wragge, an incredible expert nutritionist and health strategist. We're also joined by one of my best friends, Marlien Rentmeester, a fashion editor and the woman behind the sensational fashion blog, Le Catch. Marlene followed Sarah's protocol, and we break it all down today. If you want to get healthy, this episode is not to be missed. Thanks for watching SHEMD. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for a physician's medical advice. You should regularly consult your medical provider in matters relating to your own health. Even though we share our honest beliefs on SHEMD, some of the products and services we discuss may involve sponsorships or paid advertising. Knowing your family's history of cancer is a first step to understanding your own cancer risk and may qualify you for the MyRisk Hereditary Cancer Test with Risk Score. It's easy, accurate, and covered by most insurers. Learn more at getmyrisk.com. That's GETMYRISK.com. I am really excited because Marlene's one of my best friends, and I've heard so much about Sarah from so many other people, as well as Marlene, who's doing her program. So Sarah, you are the founder and chief nutritionist of the innovative nutrition brand Sarah Ragy Wellness. You have a 10-step method that educates clients on how to burn fat, conquer cravings, and eat for endless energy. You also have a lot of other registered dietitians that also work under you. I have heard you have some tips and tricks and amazing things to share today. So welcome and thank you for being here. And Marmar, as I call her Marmar, I'm so happy that you're here.
So happy to be here.
I'm going to tell, Marlene, why don't you tell how we met?
Okay. It's a very Mary Alice story. We were both working at Condé Nast and recently moved here. I think you moved from Paris or New York, and I just moved from New York, and we were riding up in the elevator to our office at Condé Nast. And I was with another woman. She worked at Vogue, and she was like, I don't know what we should do here in LA, but apparently there's this one woman who's really fun here. And she works at GQ, and we need to get to know her. And Mary Alice was like, that's me.
Oh my
She was in the elevator, and we're like, hey. She's like, hey. And
You're like, I am fun.
And we're like, how are you?
Fun. It's amazing.
We were like, hi, how are you? And then her next question was, do you know any cute boys?
And that was at the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Exactly.
And then y'all met at a dinner party and kind of the same thing happened.
Yes, but actually, I feel like I met her before she met me because I actually heard Sarah speak at a panel organized by a mutual friend and client of Sarah's. And I didn't know what I was walking into. It was like a panel event. Before the panel starts, I see Sarah from afar. I'm like, who's this girl? Like, blonde. Like, her eyes are like so white, and like she's like the poster child of like health and beauty. And I'm like, and she was also like super fashionable. So I'm like, oh, what's wrong with her? No, I'm joking. But anyway, so then she started to speak and tell her story, and immediately I was just enthralled. I'm like, and which. Hopefully Sarah will share her story today.
Well, no, that's actually a good point. You didn't start off as the poster child for health. So will you share with our listeners how this sort of came to be?
Yeah, so
it's important that I say that when she arrived today, she had a green juice in her hand and I had a Diet Coke. So I apparently
we're going to work on that. We're
some
going
of these
to
tips.
We're going to work on that. I turned a health crisis into a career. I grew up in Washington, D.C. I'm one of 5 kids. I grew up going, played field hockey, and I went to my all-girls Catholic prep school, and I had a wonderful family. And I just kind of ate the standard American diet. I ate cereal for breakfast, a sandwich for lunch, some cookies for a little snack, and then spaghetti and meatballs for dinner. And I never really felt well, although I didn't understand that I didn't feel well until I actually started to feel incredible. And my health journey really began in my mid-20s. I always struggled with chronic inflammation, acid reflux, constipation. Digestive symptoms were a regular part of my day. My relationship with food was such that I would look at a plate of food and I'd say, okay, well, the sandwich is going to give me acid reflux. I know I won't go to the bathroom for I was always trying different things to make myself feel better. better. And I couldn't figure it out. One day, sort of serendipitous moment, my normal doctor who would write me a script for another antacids, Prevacid, Nexium, wasn't there. And it was a doctor, I'll never forget her. And I don't know her name, and I wish I did, because she changed my life. She walked in, she rode her bike to work. This is down in Soho. I was living in Soho at the time. And she had smelled like patchouli oil, and she had dreadlocks, and she was just super hippie, real, Eastern medicine. And so she looked at my chart and she said, this is not okay. I'm not writing you a script. Here's the number of my personal acupuncturist. And I was in such desperate need to feel better that I walked into this acupuncturist's office, and she's like, oh my God, you poor thing. You're crawling with candida. And I'm like, what? What's that word?
And tell everybody what candida is.
So candida is an overproduction of yeast in your system that causes inflammation. And so I didn't know. She said, your entire system is inflamed. But she knew this by looking under my nails, in the whites of my eyes. She looked all over the skin on my back, and she looked at my tongue. And she read my vitals. She read actually not blood work. I did an acupuncture session with her, and she said to me, here's the number of a holistic nutritionist. And I hired this woman to help me. I was working in advertising and marketing at the time, and I was making a nice hearty salary. And so I had the resources to really dive into this. So I hired this woman. She put me on a Candida protocol cleanse. I hired a chef to teach me how to cook for this new food regimen. And I remember her giving me my protocol. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I can't eat anything. No sugar, no dairy, no caffeine, no alcohol. I'm in my 20s. I'm I'm going to clubs. I'm dancing. I'm like
dating the banker.
I'm dating the banker boys, right? I'm having,
all you're doing is drinking alcohol.
Totally.
Eating gluten.
Espressos in the morning and late night pizza. My whole world had to change. But I trusted this process, and I knew I felt so bad that this was my moment to really get well. And I had enough little hints early on, just from one acupuncture session, one green juice, one, swapping the oatmeal for a green shake in the morning. Not having a cup of coffee and having a cup of green tea instead. I had enough little signs of, okay, this is going to work, that I decided to keep going. Within 2 weeks, I was off of all my medications. I started sleeping through the night. I never had a lot of hair. My hair started growing. I started leaning out. People were like, Sarah, where'd you get those extensions? What workout are you doing? And I'm like, guys, I just changed my diet. I started to feel so incredible in my body that I ran the New York City Marathon. I got promoted. I doubled my sales numbers. I had this light bulb moment where I was like, holy smokes, this is what it's like to feel good.
And you'd never felt that way.
I never felt that way.
Wow.
And I get goosebumps saying it, because I thought to myself, God, if this is possible for me, and I've barely begun this journey, how much further can I push this?
But just to interrupt, you were on this journey for a long time, and you had also mentioned that one of her doctors told her, she complained of the acid reflux. He was like, well, drink milk and sleep upside down or something like that.
And you had colonoscopies.
I had multiple colonoscopies, upper endoscopies. By the time
18,
I was
right?
18. By the time I was 18, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. I was written a prescription for methotrexate, which is a serious medication. And I remember sitting in those doctor's offices and thinking to myself, something is missing here. A piece is missing. And now I know that piece was nutrition. It was, what was I putting into my body? But the scripts that I was written by every doctor out there, I just couldn't believe it. And my mom said to me, you are not taking that stuff. And I knew in my very young mind at that time, there's got to be a better way. And I really just listened to my intuition, and, being blessed with this woman writing me the number of this acupuncturist, I started to go down a little bit more of the holistic path. And that's why I decided to really dive in and study holistic nutrition. Who is this whole person?
Can you tell the difference between holistic nutrition and nutritionist?
Sure, a dietitian. A dietitian or a clinical nutritionist, dietitians more are focusing on sort of that old school mentality, like the food pyramid, right? The ratios of dairy to grains. It's not really looking at the whole person. And what's your routine like? What's your regimen like? I was an advertising executive at this time in my life. And I was busy. I was on the road. I was on trains and planes. I was in, offices, Procter & Gamble. I was pitching business. I was in a boys world. And I was trying to feel good. I also was in a marketing and sales role where I had to entertain. I was the meal ticket.
Right.
I had the corporate card. I was entertaining advertising agency people. And they started to look to me for fun and indulgences. And when I started to go down this path, my job description didn't line up with my lifestyle anymore.
Right.
And I'm like, how do I party? How do I do these things and build my sales numbers and build my teams, but not destroy myself? And I found myself crawling to juice bars on the weekends. I was living in the West Village at this point, and I was going to Organic Avenue, and I was literally chewing the ear off of the cash register guy. What does turmeric do? And what is this cacao milk? And what does ginger do? And I would spend hours, and then I would try, different cleanses and protocols. And I was just obsessed. I was the girl walking around my production studio with a green juice, and people were like, "What are you drinking?" And I'm like, "I don't know, but this shit makes me feel amazing." Totally. I'm like, "This is where
I don't know what's in it."
I'm
and
like,
now
I
you know
don't
what's in
know,
it.
but look at my sales numbers, and you'll see what it's doing to me. It was so empowering for me to experience that shift.
So I think it's important because we talk a lot about, diets and diets don't work. And what you've created isn't a diet.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that's what Marlene, that's why I really wanted you on here, because we've tried everything.
Right. No, I know. I mean, from Air One's sea moss algae for $40, that's apparently going to,
Cure everything.
Make me look 10 years younger. But no, as I was thinking about, what I was going to say today was just that it is a lifestyle. It's behavior modification. It's a blueprint for life, for optimizing my health. I know the map going, or whatever, the path going forward. And it's not about deprivation. It's not about, abolishing certain food groups. You can do it all. And that's what is the magic of Sarah's method.
So can we dive into it a little bit?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, when I was going, I'll call it a journey, when I was starting my health journey, and I started working with this holistic nutritionist, and I started hiring a lot of other practitioners to work with me. And what I found along the way was there was a lot of restriction. There was a lot of regimen, but not in a freeing and empowering way. It was you got to cut out dairy. You can't ever have a piece of pizza. There's no rice at the sushi. And I started to think this is no way to live. And I'm a realist, and I, similar to you girls, I want to have fun. I want to put my jeans on. I want to put my heels. I want to go out and have a tequila. And I want to feel really pretty and lean in the morning when I wake up. And
it's also just health, just the fact that you felt so bad. And sometimes, we don't know why. We just,
correct.
Even on a day that we didn't go out and have a glass of wine, it's just so if somebody's starting out, because I think it becomes so overwhelming. It's like you said, it was a health crisis.
Yeah.
So you were able to cut out everything, but most of us can't cut out everything. Right. So how do you begin?
Can I chime in here? Because
Yeah.
that for me was I didn't need to lose 20 pounds,
Right.
but I wanted to just know how to eat right to feel the best I can. And honestly, it started the little things. Will you pass me that?
Liter of water.
Yeah. Sarah recommends before your feet touch the ground, you drink a whole thing of this.
Before you get out of bed.
Yeah.
A liter before
This whole thing.
Before you get out of bed.
Yeah.
Before your feet hit the floor. Because as soon as your feet hit the floor, you're on Instagram, you're making your coffee, you're running out with your kids or whatever you're doing. So I ask you to drink a liter of water upon waking.
Okay. Everybody can do that.
Yeah,
everybody can do
drink
that.
A
And
liter of
it
water.
does change things
Okay.
instantly.
Yeah.
I mean,
You start
it's the
getting
first thing you do in the
energy.
morning. Yeah.
You get energy. You start flooding the body with hydration, and you start to get a little bit of I feel better drinking more water. It's plain and simply that to start.
Okay.
The second thing is to alkalize your body. So one of the things that I discovered was that everything I was putting into my diet, the standard American diet, the SAD diet, was inflammatory and acidic. All the foods, all the things that we love to do are acidic. Alcohol, caffeine, dairy, sugar, soda, it's all really acidic and inflammatory to the body. So our bodies actually really want to be in an alkaline state. And so I've sort of coined the term always be alkalizing, like always bring your body back to an alkaline state throughout the day, especially before you do acidic things.
So how?
So coffee, for example, is acidic. So I want you to alkalize your body before you have coffee with a fresh green juice, a hot water with lemon, or we created a product a couple months ago called Alkalize, and it's a dehydrated greens powder. Another piece of this is I love intermittent fasting. I don't think you need to do crazy fast, but I do love at least a 12 to 14 hour fast. And our greens powder, because it's already broken down, keeps you in a fasted state.
Okay.
So it's dehydrated green vegetables that are alkaline, and it also tastes delicious. And you just start your day with a little sachet of that before having your coffee.
And is that like eating a salad? Is that like eating?
It's 6 servings of vegetables. Okay. So, one of the things we were joking about before we started was it's a pain to eat vegetables.
I'm bad at that.
It's expensive. It's hard to find the right sourcing, organic vegetables that are not starchy.
And sometimes make them taste good.
And make them taste good. A lot of people don't want to eat vegetables.
Yeah.
So this kind of just like helps you get it in. Okay. 6 servings of veggies, first thing in the morning. I also like to suggest you have it around 4:00 in the afternoon before you go into your dinner or what might be your most indulgent time of the day. Okay. I actually ask you to save your carbohydrates for the end of the day. It's what it's actually opposite of what most people say. But that's because I want you to really optimize the amount of time your body burns fat every day by eating protein and healthy fat, fiber, and veggies. And then at nighttime, behaviorally, so part of this method is we're marrying the science of blood sugar balance, but I'm also marrying it with behavioral change. Because back to what I was saying about all these practitioners are very regimented and restrictive. I didn't want to be like that. I know that behaviorally, the nighttime is when I want to sort of let my hair down, maybe have some drinks with Chris. Have some pasta. Friday night pizza night. I married a Jersey boy. Like we're eating pizza every Friday night. And I'm going to do that without guilt. But I know what I have to do to set myself up to feel successful in that moment without the guilt and to not wake up really bloated. And that's to alkalize the body.
But also, Sarah, tell her about how you approach your plate of food.
Yeah. So, in order to blunt a blood sugar spike.
So wait, explain that.
A blood sugar. Okay. So a blood sugar, why is spiking your blood sugar really bad? What goes up must come down. And when you spike your glucose levels, your body releases insulin. Insulin is a fat storage hormone. So it tells your body, okay, sugar is present. I now got to get this stuff out of my system. I'm going to release insulin, a fat storage hormone, and we're not going to burn fat anywhere between 2 and maybe 4+ hours, depending on the severity of that spike. Okay. So what goes up must come down. And we all know that feeling. I call it like the post-Thanksgiving feeling where you're like, oh, you're like, I ate too much or ate the wrong thing. And all of a sudden you actually need to take a nap. Mm-hmm. So we want to avoid that because A, it feels bad. B, it shuts down our fat burning. And it also sets you up to want more of that inflammatory, sugary stuff later. So that 4 p.m. slump where you're like at your desk or you're running around, you're like, I need a coffee and God, I'm going to rip somebody's head off for that brownie over there. Like that is when your blood sugar is low and now it's trying to come back up. If you never spike it, it will never fall. And so what we ask you to do is sort of ride this train ride, like coasting in between meals without the spikes, and you will feel so good. You will accidentally lose weight. You will not be a slave to your blood sugar and those cravings. And guess what? Shut it down at nighttime.
Yeah, I love what you just said, accidentally lose weight. Because when it's not about that, I mean, some people need to lose weight for their health. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying there's also about, I feel like where we get trapped is when we have to do the Atkins diet or we have to do this diet or we have to do this. It's really about sort of changing your life and living your life.
There's no suffering. Like I'm not into being hungry. I'm not into suffering, good, bad, right, wrong. I feel very strongly about the fact that I know Marlene, I know her lifestyle, I know what and I'm like, go for it.
But it's also rooted in science. It's truly rooted in science and what works for your body, you know? I mean, that's...
Blood sugar is the root of all evil. It's the root of all evil. They are actually calling Alzheimer's and dementia now type 3 diabetes. Yeah. It is the root of all evil. And if it's also when most people that I start working with are addicted to sugar. And by the way, it's not your fault. It's in everything. It's in salad dressings. I have a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old. To find a yogurt that doesn't have 24 grams of sugar is hard work. It's really actually very sad, the state of
food
the state
in our
right now.
country.
It is so sad.
Yeah.
And don't even get me started on the pesticides and herbicides and all the stuff that is being put into it and sprayed on it and is harming our guts.
Yeah.
It really is an epidemic right now.
So how do you keep someone's blood sugar level throughout the day?
So first and foremost, hydration and alkalizing the body. And then you start your first meal with a protein-forward meal. So I ask you also to tap into whatever fasting numbers work for you. So 12, 14, 16 hours of fasting will help your body tap into those glycogen stores that are sitting there waiting to be used. And we start to burn fat for fuel. So you stabilize blood sugar by fasting and starting your day with protein. Protein, fat, and fiber is the trifecta that you need to balance your blood sugar.
A lot of protein.
A lot of protein.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about protein because even with kids, I at one
hard.
point, I was like, and is all protein equal? Can you eat bacon all day?
Right,
is that,
right.
sort of, so talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So protein is everything. I always say protein will never get you in trouble. So it creates satiety. It balances your blood sugar. It also is slow to digest, which is actually a good thing because it keeps you fuller longer. Sure, not all protein is equal because bacon has saturated fat. So you want to be a little bit careful of that. If you've got cholesterol issues, you want to be careful not to have red meat 3, 4, 5 times a week. But I wholeheartedly believe in a complete amino acid profile, which is animal protein. It is hard to
What
get.
about nuts?
So nuts are not a complete amino acid profile, but nuts have a little bit of protein, but I consider that more fat than protein. So, a lot of plant-based people have a hard time getting in enough protein because it's hard work to make a complete amino acid out of plant-based protein. Like beans and rice would make a complete amino acid profile. However, that is a lot of carbohydrates.
Right.
That is a big blood sugar spike. So I'm an animal protein fan through and through.
Okay.
I happen to start my day every day with what I call the SWW shake smoothie. Marlene does that as well. And what I'm doing is I'm double scooping 20 to 25 grams of grass-fed protein isolate with blueberries, cinnamon, some water or
What
nut
is-
milk.
Explain what that is.
So whey protein is dairy. Grass-fed protein isolate is basically, it's kind of gross to think about this. It's beef. It's beef. It's the same thing as eating a piece of a burger or a piece of steak. It's basically, they take the beef from an animal and turn it into a powder.
Okay. Well, what if I just ate some turkey?
Totally fine.
Okay.
Totally
so you
fine.
could eat some turkey instead. Because those of us that don't, either don't have the time to make a shake.
Absolutely.
Or, okay. You could.
But I want to actually comment on time to make a shake. It takes 2 minutes,
Less.
3
Yeah,
seconds.
yeah.
Like actually it is so again, I'm a girl on the go and I will take my SWW water bottle and I will put my entire meal in here. It is a meal replacement.
Okay.
So I will have 50 grams of protein, 300 to 400 calories, some flax or some chia, some spinach.
Is that fiber for
It's
fiber?
fiber, yeah.
You need
And
fiber.
You need fiber, and we don't get enough fiber either. And depending on what your workout was or what your movement was that day, maybe it was nothing. That's how I want you to kind of use your shake as your tool for what you need. If I'm doing heavy strength training, which I wholeheartedly believe in that also, I will add a banana or half a banana. If it's a Pilates class, maybe I don't need fruit, but maybe I need a quarter cup of blueberries.
So we'll have your recipe for a shake on our site after this episode so that people can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, so walk me through. So that's what you do for breakfast. Then what
Yep.
do you do for lunch and dinner?
Sure. So a smoothie, or let's just say you're an eggs person, you want to have like a whole egg omelet with some sauteed veggies and a quarter of an avocado. That would be another great way to start your day. And I promise you, when you don't introduce a piece of toast there or something that is a super simple carbohydrate, you will coast 3 to 5 hours between meals. And that is always the goal. 3 to 5 hours before a meal. meals. You want to not eat less. You want to eat less often. Okay. And that's so that we can drop our insulin levels between those meals and get back into a fat burning state before having our next meal.
Don't you call that like feast or famine?
Feast or famine.
Well, so we were taught for a period that you're supposed to take little meals, little meals, and that
it is the opposite, because you are always engaging your insulin levels. And so you're basically like keep shutting down your fat burning.
Okay.
And so what you want to do is, I came up with the step 4 of the method is feast, famine, repeat. So when you're eat. I think a lot of women, especially women in New York that are running around and they're grazing. You're not really filling the tank up. You're sort of just like getting enough to kind of get through.
Filling the tank with the wrong things.
Filling the tank with the wrong things. And then we're over caffeinating, right? Which is super acidic. And so you're sort of pushing down that hunger. A lot of women, I'm not going to call it eating disorders. I'll call it disordered eating, where they're like afraid of hunger. Mm-hmm. They're like, I don't want to feel hungry. That's bad. That's wrong. Or whatever weird psychological things that we do sometimes as women. It's like, honor the hunger and feast. Feed your body that trifecta, and give yourself permission to really enjoy a beautiful big omelet with some bacon, or, a really beautiful big salad with a huge piece of a chicken thigh on there, or a grass-fed piece of steak, or a wild salmon. Okay. And then coast until what I call your mini meal, which is your afternoon insurance policy to help you avoid late night snacking or overeating at dinner.
Right.
We all know that feeling when you go into your dinner,
and you're
starving,
like,
right? And I call it the black hole, where like you're eating and you're like, oh my God, I'm so hungry, I can't get full.
And that's
it's
the bread
horrible.
basket. I'm like,
right?
Here's the bread basket.
There you
or
go.
A bucket of French fries.
Right, or a bucket of fries. And you've gone too long on empty. And now your body's trying to like make up for lost time. And it gets ugly. And then, that spirals into what I call the F it spiral, which is this pantry party that happens. And you go down this spiral of indulgence. Mm-hmm. And then you think to yourself, well, F it. Like, I'm just going to.
I'm already out the window.
Tomorrow morning, I'm going to have a bagel, and then I'm going to have a sandwich for lunch, and then you're off. And then a lot of times I meet people in that it spiral, and I'm like, we just got to stop the spiral and start again.
So what do you do with somebody that's insulin resistant?
It's this. It's the method.
It's just the method. It's the way that they can eat.
It is the method, tried and true. It is blood sugar balance. It is not sort of dosing yourself with insulin all the time, and keeping those blood sugar levels low.
And what do you think about metformin and these GLP-1?
Sure. So metformin is like the baby Ozempic, right? It's the baby GLP-1. Mm-hmm. I think we live in a time where 3% of Americans are on it right now, and they're predicting that by 2030, 9% of all Americans will be on it.
How much?
9% by 2030. So I, as natural as I can be kind of girl, I've always been against medications. And in the last couple years, I've gotten on board with them because I think there's a time and a place. I think that needing to lose 5 to 10 pounds, there's no need for that, right? What I do know, because I have literally taken hundreds of people on and off of these medications, titrated them up in dosages, maintain weight for a couple of months, and titrate them back down, is that like it really works.
Yeah.
But the diet will always override the medication.
Right. I
had a client in South Africa over Christmas on a 7.5 shot of Manjaro, which is like that middle of the line. It goes 2.5, 5, 7.5, 10, 12, and 15. So he's on 7.5. He gained 10 pounds. So that tells me he was a bad boy on vacation. I said to him, I go, you were a bad boy. That tells me, well, we were not behaving. And he's like, I just got to get back on it. So the medication will play a role.
Right.
And I like to use it as a superhero cape.
Right.
Let's put you on the method. Let's get, 6-8 weeks in and have you feel really good. You're going to lose some weight.
Right.
You're going to know what you need to do every day. And then we give you a little cape to help you kind of fly a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And then we utilize the medication. And the goal is always to get you to the lowest dosage of medication and what I like to call pulse the medication. The goal is always to have them be on the lowest dosage and then pulse it and to use it almost like they do Advil. I went on vacation, I misbehaved a little bit, I come back and I do a shot.
And it doesn't hurt you to do that on and
It
off?
doesn't. In
Okay.
fact, I think it's really effective.
Okay.
I think it's really effective. We even see with pulsing medications when I'm following clients with body comp scans, whether it's an in-body or a STICU, I'm seeing inches whittle away in a matter of 4 weeks with one like lowest dosage shot.
And I think it's good you just brought this up too, is the weight bearing. I think that we as women were
yes.
taught
Yeah.
cardio.
Yeah, exactly. That was
Totally.
what was game changing for me because, as you know, I like to exercise
Cardio.
every day and exercise hard. Whether
you
it's
were a hard
Yeah.
worker. Yeah.
Runner.
runner, to the point of obviously injuries, and Sarah helped me really see the light. Not only with strength training, which is like we all know we need to do it, and
Especially
somehow-
as we get into
of
this
course,
menopausal,
but I don't know
premenopausal.
why we feel like it's not a workout or something.
right.
You know, like it doesn't make me sweat, so therefore it's not working or something. Whereas it's truly the opposite, particularly like you said. But so she has this thing called A workouts and B workouts, and that also was a great way for me to sort of strategize like what I was going to do every week and counterbalance the gruel with some like easier, gentle on the body Pilates. And I also found it so interesting to know too that like about the cortisol and how like it really affects your body. Will you explain that?
Talk about the cortisol
Yeah.
level because I think this is so interesting.
Yeah,
too.
yeah, it's really fascinating. So if cortisol, similar to insulin, is a fat storage hormone, if cortisol is always present in your body will prioritize that cortisol management over burning fat. And so we have to let our bodies know it's safe to let go of fat. That's why I'm not hugely into intermittent fasting 7 days a week for 16, 18, 20 hours. Give yourself a day of, to 12 hours. Give yourself a day of 14. With the exercise, if that no pain, no gain mentality that we all know, it doesn't work. Our bodies get stuck in a fat storage mode. It's too much. It's too hard. And what surprises me so often is that we get conditioned to thinking 7 days a week or 5 days a week of a HIIT style workout or a hardcore dance cardio workout is going to get us to our goal. And a lot of these exercise businesses are promoting like you only do their workout, you only do their program, and you do it 7 days a week and you don't miss it. It's too hard. It's too much. Take into account all of the other exercise you're doing, including putting groceries into your car, including like loading my 3-year-old into the car seat. She's 40 pounds, right? Like all of these functional movements that I'm doing throughout the day. Right. So one of the things we're really big into is data tracking. So with a Whoop band or an Oura Ring, we put continuous glucose monitors on our clients. And what I found in my own health journey with exercise was when I thought I could have sworn before I put this Whoop band on my wrist that I was not working out enough and that I was sleeping 7.5 to 8 hours a night. What the Whoop revealed was I was sleeping barely 6, and my workouts on a strain of 1 to 21 were a 16 or 17. I was working out so hard and I was not remotely recovering. Right. And this was another one of those sort of curveballs in my journey of like, wait a minute. I'm going too hard and I'm not recovering. I'm not restoring.
Spiking your cortisol up.
Spiking my cortisol. I was not anywhere where I thought I needed to be physically looking based on what I was doing. And so I actually, when I was pregnant with my daughter, who's now 3, I actually tore my meniscus. And I know exactly when I did it. I was doing a kettlebell swing 8 months pregnant like a psychopath. Why was I doing that? Because
don't roll your eyes. You're over there running on a broken hip.
I'm right. Like, by the way, you've been in that.
Don't tell anyone,
right? Like, I know you're like, I'm just going to hobble down the street and like, is this okay? And that was a moment for me. So I got meniscus surgery, and then I was told to do no impact work for 8 weeks, and I was like, what am I going to do? I'm going to go crazy. So I signed up for Pilates. I was like, I hear all these, girls do Pilates. And so I signed up for Pilates. I started doing physical therapy. And within 5 classes, kicking and screaming because I hated it because it was so freaking slow, I was like, I can't do this. This is so boring. My jeans were big. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So I kept going. And then over the course of probably 6 months, I lost almost 12 pounds without trying. I accidentally lost weight and I was having fun. I wasn't sore. I wasn't overly hungry. And I said to myself, wow, all right, so Pilates I'm going to do a lot of the time. And I'm going to go crush those workouts and get that buzzy high feeling that I love, that's my drug, maybe 1 or 2 days a week and see how that works. And then the AB workout strategy was born from that. And I started implementing it with clients like Marlene and my hard charging New York girls, and everyone was starting to lose weight. That was that was a major kind of epiphany in my program. That and the feast famine, the no snacking were 2 of those light bulb moments as I was building my business. So I was like, oh my gosh, these are huge things. And they, by the way, they allow you to enjoy yourself a little bit more.
So, and they're doable.
Right.
They're doable.
I guess that's
you're not failing if you go to Pilates. And I always thought I was. I was like, that's not enough. I got to go for a run now.
Yeah.
And I think, that's why we started this podcast, was because we want to give all women access to these amazing experts like you, and a lot of them either, most women can't afford to go see you, or they can't afford to be in New York, or now you have a bigger team. So there are those women. But these things that you're talking about are things that every woman can do. Every woman can drink that water in the morning. Yeah. Every woman can be more kind to themselves when exercise. Every woman can try to keep their insulin level and eat more vegetables in the way that you're telling them to do. So, Marlene, what is the biggest change that you saw?
Knowing what to do, knowing what to eat. So starting with the water, already I feel like, okay, my day is off to the right start because I'm doing that. And then having that smoothie, starting off with a lot of protein. I do intermittent fast, and I drink that smoothie around 11. And then I have my lunch around 2, again, more protein, but with salad. And then an afternoon, like some sort of nibble. Usually I do an Alkalize, and then, dinner. So it just gives me,
structure.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And talk about an Alkalize, because I love, before we got on here, we were talking about, I've been sober curious for 10 years. I mean, I've been like trying, because I know that alcohol is ethanol, and you are literally drinking poison. So as much as I can talk to myself about tequila versus wine versus it's all bullshit. It's all bad for me.
It's all poison.
I know that as much as I want to kid myself, alcohol is bad for you, for everything, for your brain, for your heart. So, but if you want to try to be mindful with this alcohol, you were saying like maybe take this before you go out.
Yeah. So, back to, I don't want restriction. I don't want good, bad, right, wrong, diet starts Monday in your life at all. I want you to go out and be able to enjoy some tequila or some wine or cocktails with your friends. But alkalize your body before going and ingesting something that's super acidic, like alcohol.
Okay.
So a greens powder in the afternoon before you do that, in tandem with the 4 p.m. mini meal.
And what's the 4 p.m. mini meal?
So the 4 p.m. mini meal, I like to use that as opposed to the word snack, because I want you to actually add another meal to your day. Okay. And ideally you plate that meal and you actually enjoy it like you would a lunch. It's a smaller version of your lunch. Okay. So around 4 or 5, depending on whatever time your dinner is, you're going to have something that's, again, blood sugar stabilizing and going to fill you up. A couple slices of grilled chicken with a scoop of hummus. Okay. Some deviled eggs are some of my favorites. I love deviled eggs, right?
I hate scrambled eggs, but I love
some deviled eggs. You could do a smaller version of the SWW smoothie, a normal size version of the SWW smoothie if you've got dinner in 4 hours. Okay. You want to try to like an apple with nut butter, or I love an apple sliced with some avocado and some sea salt. Some Himalayan pink sea salt.
I can do that.
Yeah, totally.
I can actually do that.
Yeah, and that will help set you up for success in the evening. Also, you're not going to go have that cocktail on empty, which we all know gives you the worst hangover ever. We've all made that mistake of you drank on an empty stomach and all bad things happen then. So, really alkalizing the body helps you get rid of acidity. And I also will sometimes have this even when I go home from drinking alcohol. Okay. The other product we have is called Restore. So when I was talking about not ever feeling restored in my body with the too many workouts, and we talked about our food system, there's no more minerals in our food. Our soil has no more minerals. I don't care what restaurants you're dining at or you're going to Whole Foods or farmers markets. Most of these places are growing vegetables that are not rich in minerals in soil. The soil is not rich in minerals. And so our bodies become very depleted. And a lot of times brain fog and the inability to lose weight and all those things, that sluggishness and bloating that we feel comes from a lack of minerals. And we just need some straight up salt. So our product for the evening time, you bookend your day, you start with Alkalize, you end with Restore, is basically an electrolyte supplement. It's a mineral supplement with potassium, sodium bicarbonate, which is effectively baking soda that alkalizes the body, magnesium, and it has some B12, which helps you sleep.
For sure.
Yes. Okay. Yes. We are 30% of Americans are deficient in magnesium. So it is wildly important that you put magnesium into your body every single day. We just don't have it in the food sources. I always joke, like the broccoli that we're eating now is not what the broccoli that our grandparents ate, and my grandmother lived till 97 years old. We have to, unfortunately, go out on the defensive for sugar. We have to be our own health advocate and always try to be getting what we need outside of the food that we're consuming, because it's just not that great anymore.
It's so sad.
It's
it
so
actually
sad.
is, but that's why. So when you have a client that's, 20 and 30, are there any things that you do differently for somebody going through menopause or in perimenopause?
With women that are in menopause, I am really paying attention to cortisol, and I'm really paying attention to fat and carbohydrates. Unfortunately, when you go through menopause, your body is gearing towards insulin resistance, which is why every single woman says to me, Sarah, I woke up and I have belly fat. It's just here and here and here. And I don't know how it happened. It happened overnight. It's like the bus stopped. And so we have to be very mindful of how much fat you're consuming and your carbohydrate intake. So it is a blood sugar balancing diet, but you can no longer put half of an avocado to a full avocado on your salad, and then also pepitas, olive oil, and then later in the day have a bunch of nut butter. It's too much fat for you.
Okay.
And then we have to watch your carbohydrates. Complex, fiber-rich, slow-burning carbs are the answer. Sweet potatoes, quinoa, butternut squash, as opposed to white rice or pasta or bread. Have those things. Have the SWW plate in order to blunt that blood sugar spike. So what you want to do is, let's say you're going to go out to a fabulous French restaurant. And you're like, I'm going to get the steak frite tonight, and I'm going to have a glass of wine.
Steak frite.
Love steak frite. Who doesn't, right? So have it. But start your meal off with either a salad, or I love to go to a restaurant and start with a sauteed side veggie, a side of Brussels, a side of sauteed spinach or asparagus. Okay. Then you order your steak frite, you eat the steak, and then you have the fries last. Okay. This will literally throw a blanket over your blood sugar. It helps mitigate that spike. It helps keep you fuller longer. Also, if you start off with the fries or the bread, you're going to have that immediate spike, and it's going to kind of send you on this roller coaster.
And have you keep eating more. So you kind of get full first on the greens and the protein, and then you eat the French.
It's actually really common sense.
Yeah. It's so common sense. And also, by the way, you don't want to not have the fries. I've gone through periods where, before I really got into this, where I'm like, oh, I'm 5 pounds up. Tonight I'm going to go out. I guess I'm just going to have roasted chicken and vegetable. That's not fun. No. I don't want to do that. I don't want to say that to myself. And you don't have to.
Do you do this with your children?
So it's so funny. So I just started with my son. So I'll tell you this. I'm such a real normal mom. My kids eat pizza. They have chocolate chip pancakes in the morning. They go to a birthday party. They're eating all the things. My goal with them is to educate them on, hey, Christian, like if you went to Sam's birthday party today and you had cake, and now you're asking me for an ice cream sundae at home, do you think that maybe you won't feel great after that?
Yeah.
And he's like, you know what, Mom, you're right. I'm gonna have a popsicle instead. I'm like, okay, all right. But we have Chloe's popsicles, so that's fine, So I think getting them to think about that is great. now with Christian, he has his pancakes, but he's having eggs before the pancakes.
Okay.
And so I give him every night. He loves fruit. He's a major athlete. So I'm never holding back carbs for my kids. But I said to him, if you eat the chicken and the broccoli before the grapes, I bet you feel better afterwards. And he's, sometimes he's like, Mom, I'm just going to have the grapes. I just really want to eat the grapes right now. And then sometimes he's like, Mom, wow, I really do feel better.
See, that's great. It's educating them.
It's educating.
How do you test cortisol levels?
So you do cortisol levels. You can do a blood test, but it's not as telling as a Dutch test. A Dutch test is a saliva test, and it's kind of a bad day. Whenever you do your Dutch test, you don't brush your teeth all day. So like you're going to be home. It's not like a fun, sexy day. So you basically like you're spitting in this tube.
Wait, can't you brush your teeth?
Because the toothpaste will dilute your salivary enzymes, and that is where you tell what your cortisol levels are. So basically, you wake up and you spit in a tube, and you do 5 different tubes throughout the day, and then
can you eat?
You can eat normally, but you can't drink like 30 minutes before the spit or whatever. There's specific rules. But the other thing I find fascinating is when in building this business 10 years, I've gone through phases of massive burnout and adrenal fatigue. And I didn't really know what adrenal fatigue was until now I know so much about it.
I have it right now.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, now I know so much about it. I've learned so much about our nervous systems and the parasympathetic versus sympathetic nervous system. And I really can tell like when my body's, now I have all these tools. I use CBD, I use meditation, the AB workout strategy, dry brushing, the lymphatic system, which is, oh my God, we do a whole podcast on that. So one of the things that you do on this cortisol Dutch test is in the middle of the night, if you wake up and you're waking up every night, that's a pretty telltale.
Every night at 2 a.m.
That's a pretty telltale sign of adrenal fatigue. You wake up wired and tired, can't fall back asleep, and you would spit in a tube at that point, and it would really tell you what your cortisol levels are. Yeah, it's really fascinating.
And what do you do for those of us that have poop problems? I mean, it's either like...
I talk about that all day long. I go to a party that I tell people what to do, like, I just don't poop. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Yay, here we go. Let's talk about poop. Poop, yeah. So most people have digestive issues. Okay. Absolutely. As I talked about, herbicides and pesticides, your gut is everything. Your
and
gut
hormones
microbiome,
probably affect it too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Different times of your cycle absolutely affect your ability to, eliminate or not. So the biggest piece of feedback I've gotten on this greens powder is that people are going to the bathroom a lot more.
Regularly.
Well, I mean, so what I found is, and Mary Alice can attest to this, when we travel together, we call them poo pills, like who has like the thing that'll make us...
I'll go for a week when I'm traveling.
That'll go... Make us go to the bathroom or keep us being regular. And like, this is truly the equivalent of a poop.
Okay.
Yeah. Raw dehydrated greens, more fiber. I love a probiotic. I know.
Okay. You do.
I do. I love a probiotic.
Because that's so confusing to me. The prebiotic versus the probiotic and the postbiotic. Like, can you kind of like, what do you say? Like, it's
So prebiotic, I like to think about, you just get those from fibrous vegetables.
Okay. What are fibrous vegetables?
Cruciferous veggies have the most fiber,
Wow,
like broccoli.
Okay.
Yeah, broccoli.
I just want to be very specific.
Broccoli, Brussels, cauliflower. Those are the things that really help add a lot of fiber to your diet. And then, you want, like, I love veggies. They just really help. I love seed. I love seed probiotic. So that's one of my favorite brands. I take 2 in the morning on empty, and it just kind of helps set the tone for the day. I take that
on an empty stomach.
Yeah, on an empty stomach, and then I have my Alkalize shortly thereafter, and then my coffee very quickly after that.
Okay, because there's just so many out there, and you just don't know what to do.
There's
okay,
so
good.
many out there.
That was also sorry to interrupt, but that was also a game changer for me. Sarah put me on a supplement protocol because I was just like, today I'll pop turmeric, and tomorrow I'll pop.
Will you kind of talk about in general, because obviously everybody's different, but what do you think for most women, what do you think they need?
So generally speaking, I think always a probiotic. I think the greens powder and the mineral supplement in the evening. And then because most people aren't going to the bathroom as much as they need to, or they're not eliminating, I like to do a digestive enzyme. I think that is a game changer.
And you take them when you eat?
You take it when you
Before
eat,
dinner.
before, during, or right
dinner, yeah.
after dinner. If you have really significant digestion issues, you could take them with every meal. And what those do is they help you absorb the optimal nutrients from the food you're consuming and move it along without it sitting in the gut.
Okay.
The other thing is when people are going to indulge, and you're home for Thanksgiving and you're going to eat sweet potatoes and mashed potatoes and stuffing, take an enzyme. It helps your body, it helps you not be as full
And
after
what
the
enzyme
meal.
do you like?
So I like Pure. It's called Digestion GB. That I like Pure Encapsulations brand. And I put every single person on that. We'll get very specific. We work with 3 different types of doctors. If somebody needs lab works, or somebody's in menopause, or somebody needs biohacking and longevity and metabolic attention, we work with another doctor. And so we'll get into more of the nitty-gritty of their lab work when we look specifically at that. But generally speaking, a probiotic, greens, minerals, and the digestive enzyme.
I'm really going to try all of this.
I
honestly,
think
I'm
you
going to
should.
really try to give up Diet Coke.
It's not hard. I know you got to.
I'm going to give up. Here I am drinking this green
I
stuff,
know,
which
there you go.
doesn't taste.
Yeah.
So I'm actually super
Right.
excited about that.
There you go.
Okay, so how does someone listening find you? And you've got nutritionists
Yeah.
working for you. Can you give us?
Yes.
And we will have these products that you talked about today, your products, on our site.
Okay.
We'll give them a code. We can give them, so they can get a little discount. 'Cause
Great.
Whatever
Great,
we
great,
want our
great.
women to feel good.
Yes,
but
yes.
how do they find you?
Yes. So SarahRaggyWellness.com.
Okay.
So we're actually about to, we haven't ever said this to anyone yet. We're about to release a whole new specialty programming. So we are going to have programming offerings from as low as $500 and up.
Oh, that's great.
My goal, Mary Alice, is to help as many women as I possibly can.
Well, you live it. I mean,
thank you.
you were. We talked
yeah.
about this earlier. Like, this podcast is my why, and Dr. A's why. We
Yes.
want to change the world for
Yes.
women.
Yes.
You're living your why.
Yes,
like,
I'm
you
living
are,
my why.
and I just think
Yeah.
it's incredible. And Marlene, thank you for being here. We should possibly say, which I didn't say at the beginning, Marlene is the biggest fashionista. She has Le Catch, which is, if anybody is not going on Le Catch for
best.
fashion, they need to be. She is the best high-low. She walks into a room and everybody's, what's that? What's that? And half the time it's Zara, and it's, something that's, that looks like it's $1 million and it is less, but you're also one of my best friends. And I just thank you for being so supportive
and I'm so happy to be here and
Thank you,
to be
Marlene.
to benefit from all the work that both of you are doing. So thank you.
It's amazing. One last thing before we leave, we like to give our listeners or viewers, however they're watching this podcast or listening to this podcast, 5 takeaway tips.
Okay.
So every woman listening,
Yep.
what are your 5 major takeaway? And you call them hacks, or what do you call them?
Yeah, there are some hacks. So number 1 is start your day off with your liter of water.
Right?
Drink that liter. If you can't drink the liter, try for 16 ounces before your feet hit the floor.
Okay.
Next thing is alkalize your body. You don't have to buy our product, but at least wake up and have hot water with lemon,
Okay.
A celery juice or a fresh green juice. I think it's important to note that if you have a fresh juice, it does break your fast. So a lot of people don't realize that. So that would break your fast. The third thing is to fast a little bit. At least a minimum of 12 hours between breakfast and the time you consume your first calorie the next day. Fourth tip, don't snack. Stop snacking. Feast, famine, feast, famine. Give your body food when you're eating, and then let those insulin levels drop down. And then I'm going to say that the 5th tip is to decompress. I think we all go from, our fight or flight sympathetic nervous system we're on Instagram, we're on social, we're looking at Netflix, whatever we're doing, go. And then we get in bed and we're like, oh, now we're supposed to sleep. Now sleep. Like, that's just not how it works. So sleep is actually a learned behavior. So just like I sleep trained my 3-year-old daughter, we have to sleep train ourselves, and we have to give our body those cues to set up for a deep, restful sleep. So as busy working women here, like, sometimes 6 hours is all I'm going to get, but you better believe I'm going deep. And my REM sleep is sometimes over 2 hours. And that's because I know how to set myself up for a deep, restful sleep. sleep. So I have a legitimate wind down ritual. It's an infrared sauna blanket. We were talking about that before. It's dry brushing. And by the way, it sounds so like expansive. It's not. It can take 5 minutes.
I take a bath.
Take a bath. A bath is the best.
Sometimes you put your feet up, right?
I put my feet up the wall. Okay, my husband's like, what are you doing in there now? All right, you're like, it's this whole thing. But when you put your legs on an incline up the wall, it actually activates your parasympathetic nervous system. It tells your body to start winding down and relaxing. It taps into that vagus nerve, that is helping your body go into parasympathetic. So when you wake up at 2 a.m, get out of your bed and put your legs up the wall and lay there, Shavasana pose, like hands up and just in through your nose, out through your mouth, and do it 10 times.
I'm like doing that right now.
I am so tired. I wake up every night at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So, oh my God, thank you
I'm going to
so
give you a
much.
decompress ritual too. Yeah. Yeah.
Guys, I love you, Marlene. I'm so
you.
happy that you're here.
Thank you for having
me. I'm gonna try because these tips, they're doable. This isn't like
so doable.
Yeah.
It's so doable. And you could do 3 of them and feel better.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of self-compassion, like in her method.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
We need a little self-compassion.
It's not about
Give
like
yourself
the best we can.
Give yourself some grace and
Yeah,
drink some water.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us today on SHEMD. If you want to stay strong, healthy, and empowered, follow us on social media at SHEMD Podcast and subscribe to our show on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. For our takeaways from this episode, visit shemdpodcast.com.